welcome to the Motorsport Coaching podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show.
Welcome to episode 100 of the Motorsport Coaching podcast, powered by Motivate Training. We're excited to raise the bat at 100 not out with Enzo Mucci, a high-performance driver coach from London with a difference. His client base includes Formula 2 star Liam Lawson and has included Sebastian Vettel and Esteban Ocon. Fittingly, we catch up with Enzo the day after Ocon's maiden Grand Prix victory in Hungary. Enzo takes a different approach to coaching and looks at the entire being of the driver, both on and off track. His methods combine the racing component, but also the mental approach and the marketing techniques required by drivers to become stars. We've got to spend hours chatting with him. Don't forget, the Motorsport Conference is coming up soon. We are building a terrific list of presenters. Reach out to us if you want any more information. Also, if you haven't yet, head over to motivatetraining.com.au, that is motor V number 8 training, for our online resources and sign up for one of our training programs. There's lots happening here at the moment, so come along for the ride with us. In the meantime, strap yourself in for episode 100. Start the engine and enjoy our chat with Enzo Mucci.
Hi guys, and welcome to the 100th episode of the Motorsport Coaching podcast. Matt, we made it.
Yeah, we've got the century up. Fantastic stuff. And it's credit to you, Belinda, as we were saying off air, that to get to 100 is a litmus test. And we've made it. We've got the century. Raise the bat.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well done.
Thanks, Enzo, for our 100th episode. I couldn't think of a better guest than race car performer, driver, coach, performance, everything. He's the man that comes with it all. He shares the same values as me as when it comes to developing drivers. Welcome, Enzo.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. What time is it where you are?
It is 7 p.m.
Nice one. That's good. That's dedication. And that's what it takes to get to 100 episodes as well. So, yeah, brilliant.
And I think that's the thing I love about you, Enzo. I am a big fan, and it's like it's either do it or don't. I don't care. If you want to be there, just do it.
No dabbling.
Yeah, there's no grey area for you. I love it. I love it. I love it to love.
Exactly.
So I would love to hear more about you. How did you get started in motorsports?
Oh, crikey. Obviously watching F1. Like most people do when they're a kid, and it's your dad that watches it. And my dad was, he wasn't in motorsport at all. He was just an Italian farmer that came to England when he was 18 and opened a pizza shop. His name was Mario. So he's typical Italian, got the moustache and everything. So he was watching motorsport, F1, and that sort of tickled my fancy in my early teens, I'd say. But up to that point, anything motorized, I was in there. I loved cars. I loved going on the quads at the Sunday markets and things like this. So always that kind of thing really got me, and indoor karting. But then when I got to sort of end of school, so say 16 years old, I think it was a little bit more than that. The bug really bit. And it was like, I want to be an F1 driver. And it was all I cared about. Then you start to see on the walls, obviously everything changes, all the posters you put up of your new idols, Mansell, Senna's, people like that. And I went and got my license in 94, so some time ago now, at Donington, but I couldn't afford to race. So it took about 2 years after that before I'd saved all the money to buy a Formula Ford. Even got a little cheeky bank loan, and did a club racing championship in England. And that was in 96, 97. Won that in the second year. So then I was on the race driver kind of trajectory to start with. And then about 2 years after that, I started just to coach, just to make a living, basically. Mm-hmm. So I started to coach gentleman drivers and race schools. I worked at race schools for about 10 years or so. But in that time, pretty early on, I was more into self-development. How can I perform better? Because the coaches I had back then were always on mindset, and I was like, I could see what a difference it was making for my driving. Mm-hmm. I used to get really nervous before getting into the car, so I had to handle that, and then it was like amazing. It's just like opening a new sort of reality, really, seeing God, the mind is really powerful. And since then, it's been a fascination. I became a life coach and mental coach after that whilst I was racing.
Yeah.
But then I got more of a kick out of coaching other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was outside and different sports and things outside of motorsport. And then around 2004, I sort of merged the two, and it was coaching race drivers. I worked for BMW and I was the European coach for them, and I worked for F1 driver academies and programs doing the same kind of thing. And then it's just built from there, really, and coaching on my own with drivers and things. So it started as racing, to put it short. It started as me racing, but then the fascination of self-development took me into that, and it quickly replaced being in the cockpit, because I think you just get a bigger kick helping other people. And it sounds strange, but I'm better at that as well than the driving.
I fully get it. So I can't drive, but I get the off track.
Yeah.
I guess that's the key to it, is that when you see the results of what you've done come to fruition with the driver, it's internally incredibly rewarding. And having a look at your website, you've dealt with companies like Petronas, BMW, Mercedes, as you say, Renault, which is now Alpine. This comes the day after Alpine gets a win in the Hungarian Grand Prix. So tell us about some of the people that you've worked with through those programs.
Well, Ocon was one of them. I spent time with him in his first couple of years of driving cars. And that seems to be the sweet spot for where I am, really. It's when they come to cars and they're trying to get on this F1 trajectory, obviously. It's teaching them the skills they need. So on that program that was with Gravity, which was basically Lotus F1 Junior program, it was Esteban was one of the last drivers we did, but we also worked with Grosjean was one of our drivers, Tom Bay, Marco Whitman, who's in DTM, Christian Vittoris, who was in DTM and F2. So we had quite a lot of drivers. Kevin Corges, Stanaway was obviously one of them, which you might know very well. Sure. It was, and Brendan Hartley for a little bit. So they're the kind of drivers I work with there, but also in BMW, it was a whole host, Sam Bird and people like this as well. So it's when you work in that industry or that area of the industry, you can't help but rub shoulders with some of these kids that make it all the way. We only did one day with Max Verstappen, but that was in karting, and you could see straight away how special that kid was. But yeah, it's and now it's with Liam Lawson. And
we'll claim him right now. Sorry to say.
I just got off a call from him, actually. That's why I was about a minute late. Yeah. And Ollie Behrman and Ollie Gray. So these are the new breed now that are coming up, and it is there's a bit too many to mention, to be fair. But sure, when you're working for programs and things, you do get the luxury of spending time with these guys.
And what are some of the specifics that you kind of work through in these programs with these guys, particularly those making that transition to car racing?
Well, everyone's different, because I'll tell you what, with race drivers, it's like any sports person. They come with natural skills that pretty much put them within the top 10 straight away. But you could have one driver who doesn't have the confidence, another driver who can do it in testing but can't do it in qualifying. You've got another one who needs to lead the team a bit better because they're a bit shy outside the car. Some might just need general driver coaching, and you have to hammer on them. So it really depends on, you kind of look at the spectrum of what it takes to succeed. And at certain ages, they've got different things to focus on. Obviously, now Liam's going into DTM and stuff. He's now all of a sudden had to grow up, and he's working with adults, and his teammates can be in their 30s and things like this. So it's a completely different way you approach it compared to F2, which is younger and more, it's like a razor sharp samurai sword. Compared to a more steak knife when you go into DTM. It's different thing, but that means you need different skills. And they don't talk about the driving anymore. You're talking about car development and things like this. So it really depends on where they're at. But normally it's creating the kind of person that can perform on demand, that is marketable, because that helps, obviously, as you know, because that's quite big. You can be fast, but if nobody really cares about you, then it's hard to make a career. So it's so wide what you have to teach them. like you say, with the psychology, the nutrition, the marketing, all the things that you do, it's like people can see that as being, it's very wide, but actually that's what they need to be good at.
That's right.
And sometimes they're good already on their own, so you don't need to pay attention too much there. So you go to the other area. But what I've found with everybody, and it's in every sport, is the mental side is the bit. It's them having confidence. It's them being able to perform on demand. That seems to be the number one for me. And if you develop the whole thing around that, the rest of it sorts itself out eventually. And if you make sure that they go into every race weekend in a structured way. So, okay, what have we learned from the last time out, obviously? What are the most important things? So we just one or two things that we take through to the next race weekend, and that's our only goal. We don't think about results. It's just, I'm going to execute on the first lap in the race, say that's all they care about. Okay, that's all we're going to do this weekend. Everything else will be the same. So, yeah, it's quite wide.
And so it's really hard to move places in the world of motorsports. Obviously, you weren't born and bred into it, like a lot of people are. How were you able to open doors and to get into all of those fantastic brands that you've had those opportunities to work with?
Do you know, I think it's a brilliant question, by the way. A really cool question. If you try and reverse engineer it, it's just making sure you do a good job and talk to enough people.
Yes.
I mean, I would never have known it was going to go where it's gone. I was just this kid it was from a council estate, working class, I was delivering pizzas, working in the factory. So I'm not from this industry at all, but you do good on the track. You self-promote yourself. I mean, I was calling up PR companies saying, I want you to work for me. I can't pay you, but I'll get you some clients. I'll get you some clients, and then that'll more than enough pay for the little bit of work I want. Race teams, I just used to say I haven't got the money, but I'll win. So I was just really cocky. And then when you do get an opportunity, you got to bloody do good, obviously. And then, just doing that over a decade or 2 decades, you just find your way, don't you? But I think that's the big thing. It's being patient.
And networking.
Drivers aren't. They want it now.
Yes.
You made some tremendous points there about the off-track stuff. In that you can be the fastest driver in the world, but if you get in front of a camera and you can't speak, or you go to a sponsor and you can't actually come up with some talking points outside of racing, or even sell yourself, then you've got massive drama. So pretty much it's about, I generally say it's 75 to 80% off track, about 20% on track.
It is. It's your perception. It's no different to a company. Sometimes a company, the product is all right, but they're still the biggest company in the world. You know what I mean? If you've got a good product and you market well, then you're an Apple. That's fine. But that's the ultimate. That's when you see these world champions there's only probably one every 10 years, right? I think we've probably got 2 at the minute, but normally it's one every 10 years or so. And that's what it takes. But it's you've got to communicate with people. Because a lap time's a lap time. If you've got a driver that's 0.2 slower, but he's got 400,000 followers, or he's really good at leading the team, or he's really good at engineering the car, this is kind of like Kimi Räikkönen, really.
Yeah, I always use these to him. And
absolute genius when he's talking about setting up a car. He'll come in and tell the engineers what to put on it. And that's so valuable. And everyone else can't really see that. He's not as quick as he used to be, but there's more to it. If it was just that, then he would have been ousted a long time ago, They deliver more. Outside things, that's where the champion's really made, really, not just turning a good lap time.
I think we're seeing that currently with Sebastian Vettel. I mean, if you look at the stuff that he's done this year, certainly being part of that Aston Martin Cognizant team this year is really giving him a different focus. I think they've got a very different outlook to the world by some of the people that they've got involved there compared to when he was under the Red Bull banner and Helmut Marko. You're seeing a completely different dude. I mean, you look at what he did at the British Grand Prix when he goes up and he starts cleaning the fans' rubbish out. Then, he gets involved in this controversy the last 24 hours where we race as one, but we don't race as that one. but he races one anyway. Like, it's stuff like that you look at Vettel, like he did come across at times. I've always liked Vettel, but certainly being up against the Aussies, he came across at times as being an arrogant German sort of guy. But I think that he was a product of his environment, and I think now we're seeing the real guy come through.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him in BMW days when he was racing for the BMW F1 team, and he used to come and see, because I ran the scholarship that BMW had, so we had about 8 drivers that are in Formula BMW, all wearing the same colors, all their cars are all the same colors, and they were part of an academy where they got taught, did fitness training, and I was just running that and coaching them on that. And he used to come and see us and give a little speech to the drivers, and he was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. He's got the same kind of British sense of humor, but he used to give his time to come half an hour and sit on the stage and talk to them all every single weekend, pretty much. And I was like, that kid's cool. I like him a lot. He didn't need to do it, and the way he talks is brilliant. But that's the problem with public perception. We only get to see snapshots. We get to see them at their worst and best, and we can judge people so quickly. It's not until you work with them that you start to understand, I can see why you're staying around for 20 years now. It makes sense. All the people that are saying yes to the career, like, yes, we'll give you the drive, or yes, you'll come into this position, they're seeing stuff that the public aren't. And it's a shame. I mean, Netflix can show it a little bit through their program, but even they don't. No one really, you don't know till you're there. And it's surprising, actually, how these so-called warriors that are in the car that we see, how vulnerable they are, the kind of political things that go on behind the scenes. So say if you're a teammate to somebody in a team, obviously, and you're 3/10 off the whole season, but you know that you haven't got the update that they have, but you're not allowed to tell the public. It's all this stuff that goes behind. You got team politics happening in the background that forces you to take a back seat, and you can't say, you still got to smile. There's so much that goes on.
Yeah.
So, from the outside, we don't really get the proper... It's the same with everything in life, right? People take a look at you or me, or just have a snap judgment, but they ain't got a clue what's going on and why and all this. So, it's if they're staying around for a long time, there's a reason. It's the outside stuff.
Yeah, and one of the things that, how I got to know you was through your podcast, and that's a nice trail into our social media aspect. And so you love social media, or what are your thoughts around the social media for athletes? And do you think it's a platform for?
It's the new TV, right? It's important because if you I think it was the last one I did with social media, actually, the last show last week. And it's when you get off the plane, you get off the plane, you see everybody's on this. And it's literally 9 out of 10 people are on it, right? And you're thinking to yourself, okay, what are they looking at? And you look over their shoulder, and it's always social media. They're always scrolling. After that, it's probably emails and messages and things. But really, it's just like a habit going to social media. And it makes you realize, okay, if that's where all the eyeballs are, and you're trying to sell yourself as a brand, which a racing driver is, then you've got to be present there, really. So it's like it's free as well to promote yourself.
Yeah.
Even though people complain about, it's not really good anymore, you can't do this. It's actually free promotion. We never had that before in life. Companies are spending 1/10 on their advertising and getting double the hit that they'd get on a TV advert. So it's like, for me, it's essential. You got to be on all the platforms, whether it's written, whether it's video or voice or whatever, if you're trying to promote yourself, that is. And sending your message out there. So I think it's really important for race drivers. And I've got a few drivers now, 3 or 4, that have actually got race seats or big sponsorship deals or sponsorship products supplying, just because they've got a lot of followers. So it's opening up, it's giving them an income stream. And some of them are on Twitch nowadays, which is obviously just you streaming on a video game.
Yeah.
And they're making thousands a week.
Massive. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. You're like, how the hell? You can just create money now, but people are loving it. They're providing value.
Back in the day.
Sorry?
Where was this back in the day?
I know. Yeah, now it's like there's no excuse to not earn cash.
Yeah, and so do you, with your podcast, just film on YouTube and then repurpose across the platforms, or do you have different content for each of the platforms?
I do. I kind of speak to LinkedIn a little bit different. So it'd be a bit more of this is a business lesson that we can take from. But normally it's YouTube, and then I'll take clips from that. So I record it, post it up on YouTube, take clips and put it around. But yeah, I'd say YouTube's number one for me, and then Instagram. And then Instagram's linked to Facebook, so it pretty much goes there as well. I think Twitter's last at the minute on my priority. TikTok's another one that's coming up. But they've all got different, obviously you have to shoot it in this portrait or landscape, or you can only have 1 minute over here. So it becomes a full-time job, as you know.
And do you have advice for those drivers that are introverts? And Matt spoke before about them having to speak in front of the media, obviously doing video for social media content as well. With the mindset training, obviously it's a big part of it. And do you have any advice for those kind of drivers?
Well, number one, realize that it's essential. If people haven't heard of you, they won't pick up the phone to offer you a drive, because you just can't really peacock in this sport very well. When you're on a grid of 30, it's so hard to stand out unless you're winning. And if you're not winning, then you've got to be a profile elsewhere. So speak, and if you're not really injecting emotion in people that are watching you, they'll switch off and they just don't really care about you. But that's just the way it is. And every big sports person, I'd say, was a personality. Or sorry, that's a bit of a wide thing. Most of them, like you think of the Muhammad Ali's, and even Conor McGregor, it's their mouth that sort of puts them on the pedestal. Yeah. And then they back it up with their skills, obviously. But if they were just quiet, introverted, were pretty damn good at boxing, they wouldn't be anywhere near the person they were. So that says something, doesn't it? And you don't have to think about, what can I create today? It's literally just document what you're doing today. I'm going to the gym. It's boring as hell, but at least it's something. You know, I just had a sponsorship meeting and it bombed completely. I said the wrong thing. I was nervous. You know, if someone put that up, that would really, people would be engaged in the journey then. So you just it's like a video diary that's online. I think if you do that, that can be a nice way of doing it. And just photos, it doesn't have to be video. If you don't think you're very good at video, fine.
Yeah, and that's what I always encourage. Sorry, Matt. That's why I always encourage, like, for those drivers, that even they can just be the voice over to start off with. And having those still images, or having the video, this is me at the gym, that's my bench press that I'm going to do 20 kilos or have done 20 kilos, but just trying to improve their confidence.
I mean, everyone's obviously different. Do you think that for the drivers that we've just spoken about that are on the introverted scale, that aren't necessarily I guess, more flamboyant of those, do you think that from a social media perspective that their interests other than racing become super important then? So whether they're into scuba diving, whether it's skydiving, reading, the stock market, does that suddenly take on a whole heap of different importance?
Yeah, I never thought about it before, but that's a really good point. It's showing a different side to you, isn't it? And it's other things that you're passionate about. And if you can talk about it, then, God, you do it. And you never know, what heartstrings that could pull on. And if a sponsor sees that you're interested in their area as well, and there's a nice crossover, God, you never know where it could go from there. So, I think adding a bit of colour into the picture like that is good.
I'll send you my email after this.
There you go.
So with the drivers that you're currently working with now, is it purely for driver coaching, mindset, or is it really when they work with you, they're getting that whole, I guess, a coach where you are helping them with their social media and you are helping them with their sponsorship?
I'd say
and stuff like that.
Predominantly, it's personal performance. I've hit a rough patch. I need to get back. I'd say that first. So when I've got a driver, it's either I'm with them at the race weekends, and there's only about 3 that I do that with, because obviously there's not many weekends left. This last weekend was the first one I wasn't away, and I think I'm away until October now. So it's you can only fit so many in, basically, because they've all got like 10 races each. So it gets a bit busy quickly. So everyone else is kind of e-coaching. So it'd be like this, speaking to them about how was it last weekend. They send me a score sheet on their personal performance, and that comes through, and I'll make a graph and you make it all fancy, and we can measure it then and see where you are at. And that's always on the personal performance side. But when I first sit down with them, we sit down for 2 hours and we go through the driving side, basically, how the braking, all the other stuff, the normal driving stuff. On the second page will be mental. And this is all on an Excel sheet. So you go through their best times, how they performed, their worst times, how did they create that? Then a score sheet of how they are in all these different ways, like a psychometric test as such, just to know where they're at there, and speak to their team manager or their parents to see their perspective as well. So you get like a mental model, a driving model, then a mental model. Then I go into their work ethic, how they spend their hours, and how well do they know the tracks? What are they doing? What's their lifestyle, their environment? And then the marketing side is also quite big in terms of what are you doing? What's the reach you've got? Because obviously they say I've got 1,000 TikTok subscribers or followers. I've got 4,000 over here. I've got 500. I've got 200 there. And you sort of add them all up so you can see your reach, because that's obviously quite important for them to know when it comes to sponsorship, so they can price it properly and improve it. If it's like, Jesus, I'm not even on Instagram. So it's just aware to that. So it's the overall one. So that gives me a really good snapshot, quite deep, but a good snapshot of where they're at. And it's like, okay, what are we struggling with? What's the main priorities? And usually it's personal performance, the mental and the driving. So I'm there mostly, to be fair. And then we just go into, have you done a post today? You know what I mean? So I don't really major on the marketing side, on that side. And if they need help on sponsorship, it's like, okay, let's talk about that. What do we need to do? Let's try and get some £500 sponsors in, even though the space on the car is probably worth 20 grand. Let's just sell it for 500. Give them a good time, get them in the door, let them know that it's a deal, and hopefully they'll sign up for next year. So it's kind of trying to think, okay, what can we do now that will help you in 6 months? And if they haven't got the confidence to go and speak to them, it's giving them that and helping them team up with people that have got the confidence to sell. So it is quite wide, but I'd say predominantly it comes down to the mental and the driving.
And has COVID affected your business over the last 18 months? Or
it did, yeah. Originally there was no racing, so it was like, okay, what are we going to do about this? That's quite a big income supply right there, gone. And not for income, but I thought, right, let's do some training online now. So I got a better simulator, and I started to train the drivers on e-coaching and getting into a room together, should we say, a session together. This is all about qualifying. Then we're going to do a race at the end, and it kind of grew over about 2 weeks. And we had about 30 drivers. And then I thought, okay, let's do a championship. And I called it the April Isolation, or Isolation April, I can't remember now. And started to invite different drivers. Drivers started to invite different drivers. And we got it live streamed. And it did really well. And we had Lando Norris and all sorts of people in there, loads of juniors. I think it was 105 drivers that we had sign up. Yeah. And about 40 to 60 would turn up for a race. And it was really good. It took off. And then I thought, hang on, there's no live TV now. Live sport on TV. So we went to BT Sport and we said, we're doing this. We've got big names in it. Are you interested in putting it on TV live? And they snapped it up. So it's like, okay, we're doing May Isolation now. So this kept us busy for a while. We did 2 seasons, if you like, the 2 months worth. And now I just do it once a year in January. Call it the Ultimate E-Driver now. But so that sort of took up the first few months. And then before July, I think it was, by July, we were back on track. So the only thing that hurts is the actual traveling.
Yeah.
Because all the tests you have to do, all the isolations, all the rules, they keep changing. So I think that's the biggest pain. Lots of paperwork now to fly away. Like you'll get to the airport and you'll find out you're not allowed to transit through Switzerland because you're from the UK. I'm like, oh God. So then you have to change your flight. So I think it's all things like that are more of a pain in the arse.
We wish we had those issues. And so we can't even go interstate at the moment. So
I know it's locked down, right?
Yeah, we're like 7 different countries at the moment.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
like within one big brown land. And I mean, Belinda's obviously had a lot tougher than what I have in terms of the lockdown, but my state has gone into lockdown just at the weekend, and we're there for at least the next week. If not, it'll be longer, of course.
Wow.
But yeah, don't get me started. But
basically, we haven't had continued or a whole season of racing since the Grand Prix last year. So
oh my goodness.
We've had, we've tried to have the Australian Karting Championships, and they only had like 3 rounds last year. This year they can't even hardly get any. A lot of the national series can't run because we can't get people in and out of each state. It's so chaotic over here at the moment. And so
it was here for a long time. Same here.
That you're going well over there. And
well, it's weird because at the minute they said, right, the cases are rising, so what we're going to do, we're going to open up completely. So, okay, that's an interesting way of doing it. But it might work because obviously the vaccine and all that. The death count isn't that bad at the minute. So, it's still an experiment that we're running.
I think it's been quite amazing, the experiment. I mean, when you look over the Euro, so I tuned into most of the England games during the Euro at Wembley. The atmosphere, I've never, I don't think, watched a sporting event where I've seen atmosphere like the national anthem at Wembley. And then you go to the British Grand Prix and how absolutely phenomenal that was in so many ways on Friday and Saturday, then into Sunday.
It was mad.
It was just, I had goosebumps pretty much the whole weekend watching all of that because I do like a few of your British drivers. But I had goosebumps watching a lot of that over that weekend. And it's amazing to see that. Also American sports now that they're back open and everything else. It's quite incredible. Yet we're just bumbling from one piece to the other with 9 cases here, 20 cases there sort of deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it was the day before lockdown that we actually did the Grand Prix. And on Friday, I went to Beckett's to watch Liam and Luffield. And so I went out in the crowd, and it's like you're thinking, okay, 1 in 60 people, because 1 million people have got COVID at the minute, 1 in 60 have got it. So he's probably got it. So I was trying to keep away from everyone because it's no masks or anything. Everyone was just out there getting drunk. It was hilarious. So I was like, it's like walking through the Walking Deads, trying to keep away.
Easier said than done in a crowd of like 140,000 people.
Yeah, it's mad. It's a big place, but still. It's a lot.
Enzo, thank you very much for all of your insights today. I really appreciate your time. And it was great to hear exactly what you do and really showcasing to drivers that as they do go up through the ranks, that it is just as important, if not more important, to actually have everything aligned. So, the fitness, the nutrition, definitely their mindset, but also knowing their sponsors, knowing what social media content they're going to do and basically having those confidence to do media training and to promote their brand. Yeah.
You got to see yourself as a company. You need the product and you need the marketing. It's no different.
My whole slogan, Enzo, is motorsport is a business. So that's why I keep saying every episode, I'm like, guys, motorsport is a business. You have to treat it like a business. Yeah. So I'm very passionate about that. Where can people learn more about you and follow your journey and get some tips and strategies of yourself?
Well, luckily, my name is that obscure. It's quite easy to find on Google search. But just the racedrivercoach.com is the website where I base myself. So anything on there, and you'll see the social media links from there.
Yeah, and I do quite often repost your links into our free Facebook group. So thank you. And I think, it's just snap information that you do provide. Sometimes they're 5 minutes of podcasts or YouTube videos. Sometimes they're 15 minutes. And
so random.
And you just go on a rant, but it's just black and white. And it's just like, you just have to do it. And if you don't do it, then don't turn in next week.
Honestly, I've got to do today's Driver Coach Show episode after this. I don't know what I'm doing it on yet. So it'll just be press play, press record and let rip. I think it will be on the Grand Prix yesterday, but I don't know. But it is literally.
How about the fact that you haven't watched the Olympics?
Maybe I should do that.
That is such an international thing.
English aren't doing that well, but I guess. We're producing Enzo's show here. I mean, I think it's pretty special for you, like with your relationship with Ocon and Vettel, of course. That while they Vettel got disqualified, but finishing on the podium there, and especially Ocon getting his first ever Grand Prix victory and such a fine drive. I mean, it's a pretty special day and a lot to celebrate for you.
It is. Yeah, I did text him actually. He's just got back this morning. I think he must have about 1,000 messages, I can imagine. But yeah, he'll be over the moon. I mean, that just one more thing. He's a kid who we picked him up in karting to pay for his racing, basically, because that's what Gravity did. They funded drivers, which was amazing. There's not many programs like that now. And he was living in a caravan with his dad, and his dad was a second-hand car salesperson. And it's just like the story for him to go from where he was to where he is now it just shows people that it is possible nowadays. I mean, Bottas, Hamilton, none of them came from money. There's so many of them that did actually that are in the same boat. And it was because they got the cash to do the first part and they won. And then somebody took a shining to them and they met somebody who said, right, I can invest in your career. Like Liam Lawson hasn't got the cash on his own, most of them haven't, because it's so expensive. You're talking about Formula 4 is $250,000. This is pounds now. So double it. Then you've got F3 is $1 million, $2 million for F2. It's like, who's got that cash really? There's not many drivers that have. So it's like for all the drivers that are out there that haven't got the money, it's just racing anything, even if it's MX5s. It only costs you 20 grand a year. Anything, as long as you're winning and you're shouting about it, you never know where it can go. And that's it. So don't think I've got to be in F4, and then you spend the winter trying to get the 300 grand or whatever together for it, and you fail, so you end up racing nothing. It's just no. Go and race lawnmowers, anything.
Yeah,
to get
and
you
that's
out there.
right. That's why I say, like, everyone in Australia doesn't aspire to be a Formula 1 driver. They also don't aspire to race the supercars here. Their goals are at a very different level, and people have got to be realistic too about what they can afford if they want to do the sport. So it's either race what you can afford or knuckle down it, and this is it. Like, you have to do all those things that we talked about, getting sponsors, doing social media constantly. Like, it's a business. That's something that you've got to take seriously. As you know, there's lots of things that you can do.
Yeah.
Again, Enzo, thank you very much. Have you got any last words, tips or tricks?
No, I think that was it. Just get out on track and win. Don't aim. I mean, aim high, but obviously your first goal should be manageable and just get you out there and shout as loud as you can. And it takes a long time. I mean, if you say, right, I've got a 5-year plan. I want to be in F1 or V8 supercars by year 5. It's like, that's great. But let's just do step 1 first and see where it goes. Because a lot of the opportunities that come up, they're unforeseeable. You just meet someone on the plane and it happens to be a sponsor. You can't really give them a template saying this is how you do it. And you can win a championship and end up with nothing. It's like Verstappen was P3 in F3, straight to F1. So was Jenson Button. It's not like they were the champions all the time. So it's not like, oh, you must win to go up. It's opportunities, meeting people and having that kind of salesmanship that you've got within you to pull it off and talk to everybody.
That's what I echo, Enzo. Just remember, I keep telling them that you guys are a walking billboard. Like, doesn't matter who you meet, especially when you're sitting on that plane, when you're sitting waiting to board the plane, when you're at the shop, tell everybody your story. Define your pitch and tell everybody your story, because you don't know who they are or who's in relation or what they might be involved in motorsport, not involved. Like, you don't know who you're talking to, but tell your story. And at the worst case scenario, you've got a new fan that will be a new statistic on your social media following.
Exactly. That's what Hamilton did, wasn't it, with Ron Dennis? So I'm going to win in your car one day or drive your car one day. And he was 8 years old.
Yes, he did.
That stands out.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. Well, thank you again, Enzo, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
And you, both of you. It's good to meet you.
Thanks, Enzo.
And maybe we can come on your show one time.
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can.
We've got a motorsport conference coming up. We can come and plug that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thanks, Enzo.
Thank you.
Take care, Enzo. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Well, how did you enjoy that, guys? Thanks so much to Enzo for his time and joining us on episode 100. Let us know on the socials what you thought of it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share this with at least one other person. Where are you listening to us at? Please comment on our social media pages or take a photo of yourself in the location you're listening to us at and tag us. We love to see how far the reach of Team Motivate is. As I said at the top of the show, the Motorsport Conference is building. We're going to have the opportunity for our attendees to interact with presenters, networking opportunities, an online trade show, and even post-conference virtual drinks. We've been working feverishly to get the elements together and can't wait to unveil the first big-name international presenter that we have on board. We know that you'll be impressed. This episode's motivational quote comes from Nobel Peace Prize winning German theologist, doctor, philosopher, and so much more, Albert Schweitzer. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. Well, that is us for episode 100. Thanks for your continued support. It means so much to us. On behalf of Belinda Riseley, until we return with number 101, you've been listening to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, powered by Motivate Training. I'm Matt Payne, and we'll catch you next time. Stay safe on the roads and fast on the track.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out and you'll go into a monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate T. Until next time, take care.